from Palm Springs, California, and our message today is what we think of money. What we think of money. And for this message, when I use the word prosperity, I want us to think money, because that is what we want to draw to us so that we can not only prosper ourselves, but by prospering financially, we can prosper others as well. The financial abundance that is available to us in the universe is ours to share, and we cannot share that which we cannot accept and receive. Wallace D. Wattles writes in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, there is nothing wrong in wanting to get rich. The desire for riches is really the desire for a richer, fuller, and more abundant life, and that desire is praiseworthy. The person who does not desire to live more abundantly is uncommon, and the individual who does not desire to have money enough to buy all he or she wants may not be living to his or her full potential. And the great Catherine Ponder writes in her book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, many people wondered whether it was right to seek prosperity. For example, whether it was consistent with spiritual values. Didn't the Bible say you cannot serve God and mammon? You cannot serve God and mammon. That's from Matthew 6:24. But Catherine Ponder responded to the first question by making a distinction. Mammon is wealth that is worshiped for its own sake. It is wealth without God. Prosperity thinking, on the other hand, puts God first as the source of our supply. She agreed that Jesus had told a wealthy man to go and sell everything he had, but it was because he was still attached to his riches. He did not yet recognize God as the source of his supply. And I believe that Jesus told the young man to sell everything he had because whatever he had was going to get old, it was going to get rusty, it was going to get moldy, that it wasn't going to be worth much in the years to follow. But what Jesus had to teach him would make him wealthy and abundant for all his life, that all his needs would be met. Everything that he would need to know, everything that he would need to have, everything that he would need to do would come to him as he learned to align himself with the intelligence of God, to learn to align himself with the law of God that Jesus could teach him. We all know that as soon as you drive a car out of the lot at the dealership, that car loses money. You know, I know that Cadillac and Mercedes call them pre-owned cars, but they're used cars, and they lose their value. We know that whatever it is that we have ages and gets old and is worth less. People buy wonderful and beautiful things for their home, and then they take it to a garage sale. All of a sudden, somebody wants $5 for that $4,000 couch you bought. They want to give you $20 maybe. So we know that everything physical ages and becomes old, becomes used, becomes moldy, becomes rusty, but it's the stuff of God, it's the stuff of the Spirit that is always renewing itself within us and always giving us an opportunity to live a fuller and richer and more abundant life. Now, many of us carry in our consciousness negative ideas and beliefs about money. In The Science of Mind, Dr. Home writes about thought atmosphere. Now, this is very important. Thought atmosphere, which in simple terms means our predominant mood or attitude. It is part of our mental makeup, both conscious and unconscious. This thought atmosphere reveals our mood or attitude about something without us speaking a word. The mastermind Jesus called this our kingdom of heaven. It's that feeling that people have about us. It's that feeling that we carry within ourselves. And we know that it can also be our kingdom of hell, depending on the makeup of our thought atmosphere. Now, each and every one of us attract to us experiences, conditions, and people that validate this thought atmosphere. Since nobody can think for us, it is up to us to be aware of our thought atmosphere and be willing to change it and be willing to eliminate any habitual thoughts that negate our good, especially our flow of money. Thoughts are powerful when directed towards a definite result. We want to know this is the truth. Thoughts are powerful when directed towards a definite result. That's no different than saying it is done unto you as you believe, or according to your beliefs, as the radical Jesus stated. Each of us has a relationship to money, but not everyone is aware of what that relationship is and how our thoughts can sometimes be confusing. If we think money isn't important to us, and at the same time desire to have money for some particular thing, we delay, if not stop, the flow of this money to us. We can't have our cake and eat it too, as the old saying goes, and this applies to money too. We can't resent people who are wealthy and who live affluent lifestyles and at the same time expect our desire for increased wealth to be fulfilled. We can't allow ourselves to think that other people have the money and expect to have the money ourselves. We all have heard that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And the most important thing that thoughts are is they are a form of prayer, a form of prayer. When we think, we consciously or unconsciously build within our consciousness beliefs, and beliefs outpicture as experiences in our lives. The law of mind responds to our beliefs as automatically and immediately as a law of gravity does. The only delay is our realization of this in our own mind. The only delay in our prayers being answered is the realization of this in our own mind. Most people do not expect their prayers to obtain an immediate response, so we fail to have the acceptance of the good that we pray for. And so we must expand our awareness in order to prosper. That is, to get the money that we desire by knowing that it is ours in the moment that we accept it as so. As the radical Jesus said, know that it's yours. Know that you have it. Know that you have it. Don't know that it's coming to you, or don't know that it will show up someday. Know that you have it now. On the invisible side of life, it exists. We must know this. If we look out into the physical only, if we only look out for the appearances, then we're looking out with our physical vision rather than our spiritual vision. We must see the thing that we desire, the thing that we want. We must see the wealth, the health, the joy, the happiness. We must see the money flowing to us through that unseen power and presence of God, with that unseen love and law of the universe moving it to us as we hold within our mind, focused on what it is that we want, focused on the money, and then we will receive the money. It takes mental effort. I'm going to go back to where we think about, where does our money come from? Where does our money come from? Because in this great unseen, all kinds of things are happening. All kinds of things are happening. But we only see the physical. Our human mind can only view the physical. Most times it takes mental effort to loosen our mind where our money comes from. But we must do it. Most people think their money comes from their work or in the form of a paycheck, or those who are retired think it comes from a retirement program, for instance, Social Security or the Union Pension Fund. Yet our focus on where our money comes from limits the amount of money we receive. You know, for people who believe they have a fixed income, they're fixing it. So we must lose that idea about anything being fixed. We must lose that idea that we can be limited in any way, because we're living in this unlimited abundance of God. We're living in this unlimited universe that can prosper us and bless us in infinite ways. So when we open our mind to prosperity or financial increase, we must take our mind off from where our money comes from and foster the idea in our mind that it comes to us in infinite ways and from an infinite source. Mind responds to mind, but mind is intelligence, infinite intelligence, and our human mind is incapable of knowing that which is known in the mind of God. That is why with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible is a changeless and immutable truth that each of us can depend on. Now, the mastermind Jesus realized the potential of aligning our mind with the intelligence of God, and therefore made use of it in a greater way than anyone else throughout history. The radical Jesus saw through the false ideas about God perpetuated by religion and realized that God was personal to all who sensed that indwelling presence of the Spirit within them, that indwelling presence of intelligence within them. Now, Wallace D. Wattles writes, there is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. That means when whatever we believe and have faith in is contradicted by what we see. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. That means if we keep watching TV and all this stuff about how terrible the economy is, and we keep looking at all that is lacking, all that is less than, if we keep looking at our credit card statements and focus on the balance and wonder where in the heck we're going to get the money to pay them, then we're not going to get the money to pay them. We have to contradict in our mind. We have to double think, so to speak, what we see. We got to see it as God sees it. We got to see that we're drawing from this infinite source, from this infinite supply, and we must bring this into our mind until it becomes our reality. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented by holding the thought of truth. And one of the things that helps us to hold that thought of truth, to hold that thought that we are being prospered, to hold that thought that we are drawing from an infinite source, is to activate the increase in our mind, to activate it. So I'm going to tell you, as you go about your day, today, if you go to a restaurant, whatever the tip is that you're going to give, add $1. Add $1. Increase it. See the increase. Let the increase be there. If you're going to church today, whatever it is that you're going to give that church or that spiritual center or whatever it is that you go to, give an extra $1. Add $1 to it. Take that $1 out of your pocket right now. Take that $1 out of your purse right now and have it ready. Wherever you go today, give more than you're requested to give. Give more. If you go to Starbucks to get a cup of coffee, tip them $1. If you normally tip them $1, tip them $2. Start the idea of increase in your mind. If you're sending money to Rev Bates on the radio, increase it by $1. I tell you, I won't be offended if you just send me $1. But if you're sending something already, send me $1 more. Let the increase be activated in your mind. Let that increase of faith within yourself activate that thing in the cosmic consciousness, that love and law, that abundant flow of the good. Let it be aligned with it, and let the increase begin with what you do today. Today is our day. Let's don't think about being rich someday. Let's don't think about having an abundant life someday. Let's start that someday today. Let's start it. It's Sunday. It's a great day to start it. Legitimate religions teach that we are to serve others. We are to serve others. And I agree with this wholeheartedly because we serve others best when we have money. We serve others best when we have money. We serve them by purchasing their goods and services, by giving them employment, by sharing the wealth that the infinite has manifested through our consciousness. Everyone wants to prosper financially. Everyone does. No one wants to be in debt or to have their home go through foreclosure. Not one person does. Or to be unemployed when given the choice of a job that brings a sense of accomplishment and success in what they do. I can't imagine anyone being happy living with maxed out credit cards, but many people find themselves in this condition. Why? Because they have failed to believe that they can demonstrate the money first for the things they desire and the things they desire to have and the things that they desire to do. Let's heal this consciousness that creates indebtedness by consciously recognizing that there is a power that can loose the ideas in our mind that create debt, and when we choose prosperity instead, and when we activate the increase by the things that we do, the simple things that we do that bring forth a flow of increase into our life of money, then we don't have to use the credit cards anymore. We don't have to use them. I'm here to tell you, we can live without credit. We can live without fees, without interest rates. We can live without all that if we just apply this principle to our mind. We just apply this principle to our mind and begin to depend on this principle, to depend on the goodness of God, depend on the abundance of God, depend on that which Jesus told the wealthy young man to depend on, because all the stuff that he had, all the things he was clinging to, all the wealth that he was attached to, all that stuff would rust and mold and grow old and be worthless in his next garage sale. We all know that. So let's get this in our mind, and let's cultivate and foster this idea to where it becomes our reality beginning today. There is nothing wrong in wanting to get rich. The desire for riches is really the desire for a richer, fuller, and more abundant life. and that desire is praiseworthy. These are words from Wallace D. Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich, which was printed in 1910. The person who does not desire to live more abundantly is uncommon, and the individual who does not desire to have money enough to buy all he or she wants may not be living to his or her full potential. 100 years ago, he wrote this, so could be 101. But we want to know that this is the same truth that applies to each and every one of us today, and somehow we have allowed the world, we've allowed all the stuff out there, we've allowed the religions, we've allowed the politicians, we've allowed all these people to tell us that somehow we must be willing to live with less, that somehow we must learn to sacrifice. Well, God does not understand sacrifice. God does not understand that we would sacrifice what in this world of abundance, that God has created this beautiful, glorious, abundant universe for us all to live in, and there's enough for everybody, enough to share and to spare. So why would we want to sacrifice money? Why would we want to sacrifice it? Any church that asks you to tithe when you can't pay your mortgage, run away from that church. Any church that asks you to tithe when you can't feed your children a healthy meal, run away from that church. Any politician who asks you to give to them so that they can somehow create laws that separate us from each other, run away from them. Let's allow ourselves to live in the fullness of life. Let's allow ourselves to live in the joy of life. Let's allow ourselves to live as the radical Jesus called us to live, and that every great mystic, every great metaphysician, every great legitimate spiritual teacher has told us to live into this presence of God and the Spirit of God and this joy of God and this love of God and this abundance of God, that is our life to be lived. I have come, Jesus said, I have come to tell you. I've come to tell you that you can have life and you can live it to the fullest. Go to the book of John 10:10 and look that up. I can tell you right now that you have life and you can live it to the fullest because we can do it. But we must take our mind off what we see and put our mind on that which is that unseen power and presence, that unseen intelligence, that unseen good that God has waiting for us, that God has made available to us, that all we must do is open our mind to it and let ourselves become part of it, that we can activate it just as surely as we activate the law of gravity. We can activate the law of God, and this law of God will respond to us just as automatically, just as immediately as the law of God once we cultivate and foster in our consciousness and loose all those things that tell us that it won't. Loose all those things that tell us there's a delayed reaction. Loose all those things that say someday. Loose all those things that say I've never had money, so where's the money going to come from? Loose all those things that say I must know where my money is coming from. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Take the money that flows to you. Accept the money that's flowing to you. Be willing to receive the money that's flowing to you. And bless God immensely. Bless God every day. Bless God every moment of the day that God has blessed you with it. And allow yourself to experience it. Allow yourself to share it. Allow yourself to go and help people by buying their goods and services. Go and help their business prosper by spending the abundance that God has given you to share. Go and help people by employing people. Let somebody do the things that you don't want to do and pay them well, and know that God is compensating you in the same way as you open your mind, open your faith, and allow yourself to be a part of this great abundance that life is. I can tell you that you have life, the radical Jesus said, and you are to live it to the fullest. Live it to the